All right, hi everybody. This is a video I'm filming for you for review for the 2.3 section quiz that you're going to take. This covers primarily just significant figures, the rules for assigning them, the operations that you do with them, as well as scientific notation. If you're wondering where a lot of this information is stored in written form, please refer back to that notes section that was available to you on the first assignment we did over sig figs. Okay? All right, so key takeaways here is one, what is the point of the sig figs? When we discussed this in class, we said this was primarily a method for assigning accuracy and precision to a measurement. Okay, so that's the point of our sig figs. The next thing that we talked about when it came to sig figs was the rules for assigning. Please bear with me. I am, on my couch at my house, and my dogs are in the room, and they will, naturally, of course, get loud if they think there's something in the neighborhood to bark at. And usually there's a lot of dogs nearby, so please be patient. All right, so rule number 1, we're going to talk about non-zero digits are all significant. We're going to wrap up this video. I'm going to write out the rules. We're going to wrap up this video with some examples of all of these different things that we've talked about in section 3. Number 2, leading zeros. And I think actually technically I put number 2 was about sandwiches, so I'll go back and I'll just write that out correctly. So sandwich zeros. Always count. And they can have as many as you like. So we said like 1, 0, 0, 1. All 4 would count. Or we said we could have like this. Again, all of the digits count because the zeros are sandwiched on either side by a non-zero digit. So this one would have 5 sig figs. Kind of remember that some of those rules are going to still apply. All right, number 3 was on leading zeros. This one was an easy one to remember. They never count. So when there are zeros in front of a number, primarily around decimals like that, the only thing that counts in this number is the 3. The zeros in front are leading zeros, and they have no significance. Right? The final rule was on trailing zeros, and there were 2 rules we had to remember. The first was when they don't count. When the number has no decimal places, think numbers like 100, 1 sig fig, 2800, 2 sig figs. The zeros don't count because there are no decimals in the number. Okay? The other rule for trailing zeros was that when they count, they count when there is a decimal number. So for instance, these zeros both count because they come after a decimal. They're at the end of the number, but they have a digit in front of them. So this one has 3 sig figs. Or this one, the zeros at the end of the number all count. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sig figs. Why? Because the decimal is present in the number. Okay, so those were our rules for sig figs. Just kind of a quick reminder. One of the things you want to make sure you know is all of these rules. And it's not enough to just know the rules. You have to be able to apply it. So make sure you can, using whatever method you like. You can find plenty of places online where you can find practice with sig figs and operations. Oh, my dogs are going. The place we used this week was chemquiz.net. The only thing I would caution on this one, like we saw in class, adding and subtracting with scientific notation was not necessarily correct. A lot of you got marked wrong when you were not wrong because you followed our rules. Okay? So that's all our rules for assigning. Let's look at now, if you're looking for, practice. Chemquiz.net is the one that we use in class. There's also like videos that you can watch, all kinds of stuff, okay? All right, so that covers sig figs and the rules for sig figs. Let's talk operations with sig figs. Okay, so I'll remind you that there were two major parts to this, okay? The first part was adding and subtracting. The second part was multiplying and dividing. Sorry, my husband's Surface tablet and pen, and it's having its trouble keeping up. All right, so with adding and subtracting, when doing this, we don't actually look at the number of sig figs. We're going to look at the number of decimal places. So we determine the final answer using the number of decimal places. So remember that this one, it was like if we had 100.0 plus 3.756. When we're adding these together, okay, when we're doing this operation, whether it's adding or subtracting, both of them are treated the same. We're going to keep the least number of decimal places. It's not about sig figs at this point. It's about decimal places. So since this number has 1, 2, 3, and this number has 1, our final answer needs to have 1. So we're going to actually do the operation just like we wrote on the board when we were in class the other day. So I'm going to do the operation, but then I'm going to realize that for my reporting, I apologize, my dogs are just having a grand old time. They like to attack each other. They're a little crazy. Einstein. No. They're not going to listen to me. I don't even know why I bother. All right, so we're going to report that 1 decimal place. That means we have to round everything that came after it so that we can get this number to be the right number. So I'm going to take this number, this 56 is going to round this 7 up. So this is going to end up being 103.8. Note, that has 4 sig figs. That having 4 sig figs in one of your numbers and this one having 4 sig figs, that's a coincidence. We are looking at decimal places, okay? Make sure you understand adding and subtracting, because this is the same for scientific notation. You have to follow the least number of decimal places. You're going to report the least number of decimal places. All right, so for multiplying and dividing, what we're going to do is we're going to look at the numbers that are involved, whichever have the least number of sig figs determines the final answer. And this is no matter what form we're in. Okay, so now let's say, and I'm sorry, I'm going to draw myself a little barrier. This was my adding and subtracting. This is my multiplying and dividing. Okay, so I'm going to do, let's say, 32.5 times 3.1. All right. Tried to do this on my own. This is why you should always have a calculator handy. Doing the actual math, I get an answer of 100.75. Now, when I'm looking to report my final answer, again, I'm going to look at the number of sig figs each number has. In multiplication and division, we look at sig figs. So my first number had 3, my second number has 2. My final answer then should end up with 2. This number has 5 the way that I just calculated it. I need to report 2 sig figs. The way I'm going to do that, I can't just write 100. I can't just write 10. Those numbers don't work. So the way that I would report a number like this when I need sig figs is scientific notation. This number, there's no other way. Must use scientific notation. This is why in class I keep saying, get in the practice, try to be comfortable with scientific notation. In order to report this number correctly, I have to knock off digits and I have to report 1.0 times 10 to the second. Now my number has 2 sig figs and I am reporting the correct size of that number, the magnitude of that number. If I just write 100 decimal, I've got 3 sig figs. If I just write 100, I've only got 1 sig fig. You see, hopefully you're seeing the issue there, but writing with scientific notation takes care of this problem. When in doubt, try scientific notation, especially if you're not sure how to round a number or to write a number correctly. Okay? Which of course brings us into the last part of this video, which is going to be on scientific notation. Again, my dog is fighting. All right, you two. Knock it off. Go find something to chew. Okay. So scientific notation is our last topic. I'm sorry I'm not there today. Pray for all the people who are taking the PSAT. Scientific notation. So here's how we write it. How to write a number. So let's say we have a really big number. Okay, this is a million. And I want to write it in scientific notation to shorten it. This is a method of writing a shorthand number. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my fictional decimal place, wherever it happens to be in the number you're given, and I'm going to move it. 3, 4, 5, 6. Hopefully this part you feel pretty good about. One of the things that I did remind several people of while we were working on this exercise the last couple of days in class is that when it comes to the exponents on scientific notation, they are going to be positive for numbers greater than 1. They are going to be negative for numbers less than 1. Okay? So the fact that this number has an exponent that is greater than 1, or that is very big and positive, means this number must be greater than 1. And if we look at our original number, that tracks. So what happens if we have very small numbers? Okay, well now I'm going to have an exponent that is going to be smaller than 1. 3.50 times 10 to the negative 4th. Okay, again, my exponent tracks in that this number has a negative exponent because it is less than 1. Okay, so scientific notation, we worked on this in class the last few days. I hope you feel really good about it, but you're going to follow the same rules operation rules. So when you add and subtract, you keep least number of decimal places. And we went over how to do that on Monday. Please reference your notes for this part. Okay? All right. I need you to study hard. I want you practicing in class. So let's just look at a few that you can do. I'm going to have you submit these as review. Okay? And what I'll do is during the PSAT tomorrow, I'll write up a little answer key to these, and I will have that available to you once class is over tomorrow. Okay? So I want you to do these. Operation-based ones, and I want you to report your answer. Okay, so if I have scientific notation, I'm going to always put it in parentheses. Guys, oh my gosh, hold on. Okay, sorry, had to, threaten my dogs. I love them, but they're a lot, and I'm sure you've heard them throughout this whole video, so I apologize for the distraction. These are the problems I want you to work on, and like I said, I will post a little answer key. I do want these submitted with this video, as it has been assigned. Thank you. Have a great night. Bye.